Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Hatha for everybody, as opposed to everybody. Thanks for coming here today on this beautiful, beautiful day. What a gorgeous week we've been having. We are blessed. Yes, and I'm doubly blessed because my love just walked in. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's start in a reclining position today. Have your blocks and your blanket nearby in case you need them. You could always have a blanket under your head and neck and your shoulders, as long as your head and neck are neutral. That's fine. And as you lie back, you could have your entire torso on a blanket, and you can start with your knees bent or your knees extended. And we'll take a few moments to settle in, maybe close our eyes and maybe take some cleansing breaths. Helping you to let go. Release any energies that might already be pent up in your body. Good morning, Kitty. And as you lie back and as you settle into your space, take a few moments to understand your surroundings. I ask you to do this every week. And now we put it into perspective. It's your field of consciousness. And it's important to know what's going on around you, because this is your field of consciousness. Atha Yoga Nushasanam. Now the lessons of yoga. Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is to still the patterns of consciousness. So yoga and your ability to quiet yourself, to wipe away the layers and simply be in the present moment. This is the goal of yoga, as just stated in that second line. So, what's going on around you today? And how's it affecting your body? And as you quiet yourself, can you affect your surroundings by your being? Like maybe before something in the room was disturbing you, but now it's not. That might be something that happens from time to time. And next, we draw ourselves inward and we start to focus on our awareness. What's going on inside of us? And there's a distinction. Your field of consciousness, what's going on around you, your sense of awareness, what's going on inside. And how do these two things relate? Even if it's a very loose connection. This is all part of our process. So already, what is yoga teaching you this morning? In the next line, he tells us that we're constantly disturbed in our field of consciousness, that our field of consciousness is not always peaceful. And sometimes it overtakes our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors. It unnerves us, what's going on around us, and we start to act accordingly rather than being our cool, calm, collected selves. Let's go 3 more breaths. And as you're ready, let's build today's first reclining pose. Well, you're in a reclining pose, our second reclining pose. Let's build a supported bridge. So you've got your block nearby. If your legs are extended, go ahead and bend your knees, coming into that 2-legged table, and stay in your 2-legged table for a couple of breaths, and be mindful that your shoulders, your hips, your knees, your ankles are lined up, that your feet and your knees are equidistant apart. You're not letting your knees splay out or knock together. And then when you've got that nice, precise line in your body, go ahead and lift up your hips and take your block and slide it under your hips, under your sacrum, and land on that block. So your block is wide and it's low, and it's right under the sacrum, which is the spine section that's in your bum. Your tailbone and your sacrum are in your bum. So if it's too high, it will be uncomfortable for your back. If it's too low, you'll have an arch. So be precise in that, and any other props you might be using under your head and neck. And then once again, check in on those lines: shoulders, hips, knees, ankles. And then find some more lines. Make sure your triangle in each foot are intact. You're putting equal weight in your heels and your balls of the big and little toes, and draw that energy up the legs, through the hips, all the way up through the torso, out through the crown of your head. And once again, make sure your head and neck are neutral. So you don't want to be looking at the wall behind you or the wall in front of you. You should be looking at the ceiling right above you. Attention to detail keeps you present, keeps you mindful, keeps you in the moment. So you don't have time to worry about those distractions in your field of consciousness that might disturb you. And, these things can be what's going on in your room right now. They could be things that are going on in your head, things that happened to you in the past few days, things that are going on in the world. Like maybe sometimes you let the politics and the election creep into your yoga experience or any other experience. And that might make you nervous and affect whatever you're doing. And this is the beauty of yoga. Yoga teaches us how to not let those things creep in and disturb us. Sometimes they creep in and we can't control that, but we can control how they affect us. And this is what yoga is all about. So let's stay here a little bit longer. Let's go about maybe 10 more breaths. So check in on your physique, maybe fine tune it, maybe you need to shift something, and then connect with your breathing, And notice the inhales and the exhales. And then try to deepen and lengthen both. And then slowly make your way from 1 to 10. And do your best to actually go from 1 to 10. Even if it starts to, you start to feel yourself rushing, like towards the end. Come on, get over it. Get on with it. See if you can draw them out. It's a great skill to develop. Helps you stay still, present, and calm. So the first week of our Yoga Sutras lesson, Ata means now. Now the teachings of yoga. Now changes every time you lie on the mat. And now is different for everybody who's lying on the mat. So that's a lot of nows. So what's your now? Is your now changing since you've been in your practice? Is it changing as you make your way through these 10 breaths? And the second week, we talked about the second line, distinguishing between consciousness and awareness. Consciousness is what's going on around you, being awake. Awareness is being fully understanding and cognizant of your surroundings. Kind of like a sphinx. And the third week, we talked about the different types of information that informs our field of consciousness. Right information, wrong information, imagination, sleep, and memory. Those are the 5 stages of your being conscious. Right information, wrong information, imagination, sleep, and memory. So today we will be focusing on discerning between those first 2 bits of information, right information, wrong information. And as you slowly make your way to 10, you may need a few more breaths. Please take your time. You might already be there. Please take your time. Once you do make your way to 10, take a couple of extra quiet, normal breaths, noticing how you feel, especially your spine, your hips, and your shoulder. Each week we've started in these poses to help you align that spine and create space in those girdles. So notice how you're feeling. And when you're ready, you can start to come out of your supported bridge. Mindfully press into the earth, engage the muscles to help you lift up off the block, remove the block, set it aside, and slowly with control, bring those hips back down. And then you're back in your 2-legged table. And stay in your 2-legged table for at least 3 nice long breaths without much motion. Maybe walk your feet a little bit further away from your body. So you give your torso plenty of time to settle back down and feel that spine lower back down to the earth. Feel its effects. You're honing your interoception skills. What's going on inside you? And then if you recall, the next thing that we've been doing each week are our windshield wipers. So when you're ready, start your windshield wipers. Figure out where your feet and arms want to be, giving yourself foundation and structure, and start that movement, bringing the knees back and forth. Bring the breath into it, inhaling with one motion, exhaling with another, and bring the head into it as you're ready. Fine-tuning your position. And at some point, Have the head go in the opposite direction of the knees, progressing, enlivening your windshield wipers. One hip lifts up, the other stays down. Notice the differences between the feeling in the two hips. Notice the feet. Maybe go a little wider with the feet. Maybe change something with your arm position. Bring them further down or bring them further up. All these things can help you stay present. And these are all cues that I give you each week to help you stay safe and sound. This is right information. Couple more breaths, couple more rounds. Try to remember which side you started on, and consciously, with awareness, end on the opposite side so that you are balancing your efforts. And when you come back to the center, you know you didn't go to one side more than the other. And if you did, you know, that's something to work on. That's wrong information. That's misperception. We want to do the right thing. Notice how you feel. Another breath or two. Maybe you can still feel the movement swirling about your body. And when you're ready, draw your belly in towards your spine before you hug your knees into your chest. Again, that's good information. That keeps you from straining your back. And then ease into movement. Start first with just the feet, moving and playing with the feet and seeing how that affects the legs. And then maybe do some rocking and some rolling. And remember to keep your belly drawn in. Consciously keep that belly drawn in so your back is supported. If you just forget about that belly and mindlessly do these things, you're veering into wrong information. And you want to build your experience on a positive platform, one that's truthful. Knees and feet close together give you more back support. Knees and feet wide give you a different kind of back support and hip sensations get a little deeper. So a couple more breaths here. How are things progressing for you? What's your now like now? What have you learned about yourself so far? And when you're ready, let's make our way up to a seated position. Come up mindfully so that you don't hurt yourself. And we'll meet in whatever seated position feels right. And if you need something under your bum, take care of that. I contemplated just going without my blanket because I knew it was going to take me a few moments to grab it. But I know that I'm feeling a little creaky, and I'm going to listen to my body and be mindful and put that blanket into it. That's right information. So find your seat, your needs, and I'm going to take another moment to put up my hair because I know my hair is going to get all in my way as I practice, and I want to minimize my distractions. So, you know, yoga's about being prepared, minimizing your distractions, and learning how to work them in. So do your best with what you have. And let's build a seated mountain position. So whether your legs are bent or extended, bring the fingers out, tent pulling the fingers, and line them up with the sits bones. So you've got a nice mountain-like foundation. And root into the floor, into your center of gravity. Draw your belly in, lift your heart, soften your shoulders. As you soften the shoulders, feel the neck lengthen. And take a few moments to ensure that you're lifting the crown of your head towards the ceiling, not your nose or your chin, the crown of your head, which is at the top, almost kind of towards the back a little. Be mindful of these things. Soft shoulders so you're not straining them. 3 more breaths. Notice what happens with each and every inhale and exhale and breath as a whole. And when you finish those 3 breaths, let's start our next movement, rainbows. So when you're ready, try to use the inhales to extend and the exhales to lower and land and connect with the earth. And that will help you structure the movement, keep the movement safe and sound. Nice. Be mindful that both sits bones are equally rooted as you go from side to side. Eyes can be open or closed. Maybe a few rounds with either. Maybe you can keep one eye open and one eye closed for a round or two. Well, I'm going to try that, see what that's like. Serendipity. That was kind of silly, but now I'm going to do the other eye. Huh. These little things can keep you curious. I joke, but all joking aside, being curious in your practice maintains a sense of presence. So, speaking of presence, what side did you start on? And do your best to end on the opposite. And if you need another rainbow or 2 to figure that out, take your time to do that. Maintaining balance and coming back to the center, and notice the effects of your efforts. Let's go one more breath. And then let's go into butterfly pose. And remember, butterfly is a lot like Baddha Konasana, cobbler pose, but in cobbler pose, we generally have our feet really close up and we put our hands on our ankles because our feet are really close up. But in butterfly, our feet are pretty far away. So if we have our hands on our ankles, that's going to make us do this. So for this position, feet kind of farther away, hooked up as best as they can, but sit up nice and tall and put your hands higher up so that you're neither crowding your pelvis or your shoulder. This is right information. Be mindful that you're following this information so that you're building your practice on truth. Let's go 3 more breaths and notice how your butterfly feels. Notice how connecting the feet to one another affects your butterfly. Notice how connecting the feet into the earth affects the butterfly. The sits bones into the earth. drawing the belly in, lifting the heart, neutralizing the neck and head as you relax the shoulders. Notice how these things affect your butterfly. And they'll start to happen all on their own. And you'll develop good habits that serve you well. Let's do our butterfly flies. So hands stay stable in the same place. Close your butterfly wings, curve to the back, drop the head. Do the opposite, come to the front. So the head is lifted because you're doing the opposite. And bring the breath into it. Try to inhale with the lift to the front and exhale with the lowering to the back. Notice how things are progressing for you. And you'll probably notice each week we do some variation, whether we're doing the sutras or not. We twist our spine, we curve our spine from side to side, we curve it from front to back. Those are the 6 directions that our spine can move in. The spine is our central, our center. Turned it into an adjective by accident there. And we're warming up our center. So one more time to the back. One more time to the front. And then reconnect with your butterfly. And then reconnect with your breath. And once you've done these things, take 3 nice long breaths. Take your time. And during those 3 breaths, you can continue to fine-tune your position, maybe visit different aspects, like the feet rooting into one another, or into the floor, the sits bones, all these things that I mentioned earlier, and maybe things that you think of on your own, that you notice. What's your experience? And we don't want to rush it. Haste makes waste. And once you do finish those 3 breaths, maybe take a couple of extras. And when you're ready, extend your legs out, shake them out, tap them out, wriggle out. And then the next part of our practice, if you recall, we're on to our downward facing dog portion. So this is where I let you go a little free. And for the next 3 or 4 minutes, we'll practice some freedom style yoga, meaning you make your way bit by bit into your dog exploration. You could do a standard floor version. You could stand up and do a wall version. You could take your socks off. The reason why we caution you to take your socks off when we do standing things and positions, because socks can affect your field of consciousness, that they can serve as a distraction. They can make you slip and slide. So remember, we want to minimize our distractions and make the best of our distractions. And take your time easing into your dog. Do your best not to go to that 100% right away. This is good sound information that's going to keep you safe, going to keep you curious. It helps you ease into muscle engagement so that you're not rushing, opening up your joints. Be mindful as you walk your dog that you keep your hips level. Because if you let one hip lower and but go back and forth between lowering and lifting the hip in a walking dog, that's unsafe for those hips. So I don't think I was very clear in that information, so I'm going to say it again. And that's part of Patanjali's lessons. It's really important that when we give instructions that our information is concise and understandable so that it's not misinterpreted. So when you walk your dog, bend one knee, but don't let that hip sink of that bending knee. Both hips stay level, even though there's a tendency to let one drop as you bend that leg, because that's creating imbalances and that's collapsing into the hips, and that's bad for those hips. And it's something that people tend to naturally do because they think it's right, but it's wrong. And the more you pay attention to your experiences, the more you pay attention to information that is given to you, because there's lots of sources of information out there, and you've got to figure out what's right and what's wrong. You got to figure out what you can trust and what you can't trust, and what works for you. So trust but verify. Let me see if I can pull out my Russian. Trust but verify. Поверь, доверь. Может быть, I don't know. Now, if you want, you could do some three-legged dogs. Maybe your dogs are getting bigger and bolder. You know, this would be a safe time to start to make them a little bit bigger. And if you do a three-legged dog and you do one, you're like, oh man, I don't have that in me today. Make sure you do the other one also, even if you don't have it and you do some semblance, because again, you want to maintain balance. And that is one of the goals of our down dog, is to balance the two sides of the body, to balance the strength. So when you bring the knees down, bring both down at the same time. Lift both up at the same time. Be mindful. And let's go about 5 more breaths in our down dog. Oh, and I didn't mention resting at any time because I forgot, but I also know that anytime you want to take a rest, please take a rest. Because remember, Patanjali tells us that's part of our field of consciousness. Right information, wrong information, imagination, sleep, and memory. So resting is important. Resting helps build your field of consciousness. It helps you establish those memories. Which are part of your field of consciousness. Let's make our way up to a standing position. So if you need a couple more breaths, if you're resting at this point, please go for it. And then when you're ready, we could do one more dog. Maybe use your blocks. Maybe use a lunge system to get you up. Be mindful that when you do eventually bring your body up, that you don't roll up your spine. Just remember, that's wrong information. And that's something that we've been correcting in the yoga rooms. We see that a lot. We want you to hinge at the hips, not at your waist. So you're using good, strong legs and core and glutes to get you up. And then once you're up, clear out your mat, fix your clothes, look around, what's going on. Assess your surroundings. What's your field of consciousness like now? And do you need to do something about it? And then what we'll do is we will focus today on the difference between warrior one and warrior two. And the reason why I want to do that is because it's a great yogic exploration to understand how right information and wrong information can affect the foundation of your practice. And there's a lot of misconceptions about warrior one and warrior two. People think they're very similar, but they're actually very different. So let's play around first with our warrior ones. Stand at the top of your mat. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn my mat this way so that your field of consciousness is completely accurate, that I'm actually on a mat. So we're standing at the top of the mat, and we want to make sure that we've got our basic mountain-like structure. That's our base. Shoulders over hips, over knees, over ankles, and then find the three corners of each foot and root into each three corners and draw the energy back up the legs, up through the torso, all the way out through the crown of your head. And let's take 3 more breaths, noticing how our mountain feels, maybe fine-tuning those cues. Notice. And this is more of an emotional challenge than a physical challenge. There's a difference between the two. When you're ready, we're doing warrior one. So simply step your right foot back and make sure you're still facing forward as if you were still in your mountain. Only one foot is in the back and one foot is in the front. And then you bend that front leg and then the arms come up. So you're still mountain-like, you're still facing the front like you just were. Your legs are different, your arms are up. So try to bring those mountain-like qualities. Find the 3 corners of each foot, draw the belly in, lift the heart, soften the shoulders. Keep that head and neck neutral. And when you're ready to come out, exhale the arms down, inhale with your lift up. Finish that breath. Take a couple more. What does your mountain feel like now that you're back? Are your feet under your shoulders? Or are they a little too wide? Fix these things and learn from that. And when you're ready, do the other side. See if you can inhale the left foot back. And when you're ready to bend the front knee, see if you can do that with an exhale. And when you're ready to bring the arms up, do that with an inhale. And keep rooting into the feet and the belly drawn in as you lift, as you sustain. And when you're ready, as you exhale the arms down and inhale back up. What's your mountain feel like? One more breath. Do your best not to give in to any urge to fidget, to move, to go on to something else. Stick with your warrior one in your mountain. And let's build another. When you're ready, see if you might inhale that right foot back. When you're ready, press the feet into the floor as you exhale and bend the knee. Inhale, press the feet into the floor, draw the belly in as you lift up. Exhale, soften the shoulders, the face. Use that exhale to soften any rigidity in the pose that you've built. But make sure that back leg is not sagging, that it's good and strong. Rooting the feet into those 3 corners generally keeps those legs strong. Use your breath to return. Use your breath to investigate the effects. And use your breath to build your second warrior one on the left. bit by bit. Good, strong muscles help you build, sustain, fine-tune, and to dismantle. Notice how that can keep you present and firm. Let's go into our warrior twos. So in warrior one, our feet, all we did was step back and our feet were on railroad tracks. But in warrior two, our feet are different. So when you're ready, step your right foot back. Now we want to do one more thing. We want to bring that back foot in so it's lined up with your front foot. So your front heel is lined up with your back foot somehow, and your feet are like on a balance beam now, and you're facing the long side of your mat. So we're no longer facing the short side with our body. We're facing the long side, and keep that body facing the long side as you bend the front knee and bring those arms shoulder height. And maybe look in the direction of the short side. And make sure the knee and the toes and your face are all pointing in the same direction. So if your knee's pointing this way and your foot's pointing that way, that is wrong information. You want that knee and that foot to be facing the front edge of your mat. That means that hip is opening. And when you're ready, see if you can use your breath to dismantle. Exhale the arms down. Inhale, step forward. Finish that breath. Take a couple more. Notice how you feel. And then let's do it on the left. See if you can inhale the left foot back and slide it in and face the long side. And make sure the knee is pointing to the front, the short front as you bend. So that means your hip is opening up. This is a hip opener. So the hip opens to keep that knee pointing to the front. And your arms mimic the long side of your mat and the directional energy of your feet and your legs. Because your legs and feet are going this way, right? Notice these things. And when you're ready, try to use the breath to dismantle. Inhale, lift forward. Couple of breaths. Where do you feel it and how do you feel it? And that can inform your next warrior too. Use your breath to step back. Make sure both feet are good and rooted. So find the triangles as you bend the knee. Keep those triangles intact as you lift those arms. See how that can balance the left and the right side of your body. So if you feel your front foot more than your back foot, that probably means you're leaning. You want to be coming right up out of the center. Be mindful of these cues. I know what I'm talking about. When you're ready, use your inhale to come forward and take a couple of breaths, taking it all in. And let's use our breath to do another warrior two on the left. Bit by bit, your pace, your rhythm, your range, and warrior two. Not only are the knee and the foot and the head all facing the short edge of your mat, but that knee is not going past the right, that ankle. So that knee is right above the ankle as it bends. Please be mindful of that. And use your breath to come out as you're ready. Use your breath to investigate. And let's do one more thing that can help you discern the difference between the one and the two. And even if you know it and it's solid and you've got it, it's good to review these things because it can still help reinforce your yoga. So sometimes it's good to just start from ground zero and pretend you like don't know these things already, and because that can help inform your practice. And we learned that from Patanjali. Now the teachings of yoga. Let's do a warrior one and then turn it into a warrior two. So from your mountain, when you're ready, we'll step back with the right foot and we'll build a warrior one. So we're facing the front and our arms are overhead, reaching up towards the skies. You could even draw the belly in and lift the heart and put a little bit of an arc in your warrior one. If you want to go a little deeper, or you can just maintain a more traditional warrior one. Now your feet are on railroad tracks. You've got some width between right and left, and you're facing the front. Now what you want to do, we'll turn this into a warrior two. So we'll turn out and we need to shift the feet so the feet are lined up. The front foot is lined up with the back foot somehow. So they're like on a balance beam. We're facing the long side. Our arms are shoulder height. Facing the front. Again, make sure the knee, the toes, and the head are all facing the short edge of your mat. But your body is facing the long edge of your mat. And your feet are lined up accordingly. And when you're ready, use your breath to dismantle and come back to your mount. Where do you feel it? How do you feel it? Let's do the same thing on the other side. So when you're ready, we'll build our warrior one bit by bit on the left. Our back foot pivots just a little bit, not a whole lot, so that we can face the front and that our hips are level. So this one's bending, but this one's extending, but they're both the same height. That's really important. Open out to your warrior two as you're ready. Take your time shifting your feet. Make that head turn one of the last things you do. Be mindful of building a good foundation, and you're more likely to flourish. And when you're ready, use that breath to come forward. And use your breath to investigate the remnants of what just happened. And then maybe shake it out a little bit. Let's see how we're doing in time. We have enough time to do another of those, and we'll embellish a little bit. So from the top of your mat, from your mountain, let's build a warrior one on the right, bit by bit. Take your time. And then let's do a little bit of arm movement if it's there for you. Root the feet, keep the belly drawn in, keep those legs equally strong, and your torso nice and strong. Inhaling with the lift and exhaling with the lowering. Nice, smooth, even, balanced movements. Back to your warrior one. Maybe put a little bit of a lift in your heart, put a little bit of a crescent moon, crescent warrior. We've done those before. Keep the feet rooted. And you can come back to traditional warrior one when you're ready. And then we'll open out to our warrior two. Shift the feet, ending up in your warrior two, bit by bit. Fine tuning it. And let's do one more thing here. Let's do a sun. So when you're ready, turn your front hand so the palm is facing the ceiling. Lift that arm up as the back arm goes down. and land that backhand on the leg back there to give you leverage. Make sure you're not leaning to one side. You're in the center. Come back to your warrior two as you're ready. And use your breath to come back to your mountain and to investigate. Maybe close your eyes to minimize the information in your visual field of consciousness so that you can really focus on your internal field of consciousness, your awareness, your interoceptive skills. Let's do it on the other side. Use your breath to build your warrior one bit by bit, to stabilize it, to fine tune it, and then maybe start those arm movements. We did these a lot this summer. Again, if they're not there for you, you could be still and experiment with the still warrior one. And we'll find stillness for a couple of breaths and maybe put a little bit of arc in your warrior one. And then when you're ready, come to a more traditional warrior one before you turn it into your warrior two. And be mindful of those alignment principles. Your feet are on a balance beam. Front foot lined up with your back foot. Front foot, front knee, and head all facing the short edge. That's so important. This is a hip opener. Turn that front hand over. Lift up into your sun. Root the feet. Find those three corners if you feel wobbly. That can help you sustain your sun and to go back to that warrior two and to step forward into your mountain as you're ready. Let's take 3 breaths. Notice how you feel. And think about, were you mindful? Did you pay attention to the cues that I gave you? Did they build a positive, meaningful experience? Maybe you had an aha moment. Maybe you've been doing something incorrectly, and slowing it down a little bit and breaking it down has helped you realize. And that's not a moment for you to admonish yourself. It's a moment to congratulate yourself that you stumbled upon something that's going to work for you better. Let's kind of shake it out. Let's check our time. Okay, we're really getting towards the end, so I want to get us back down on the floor. Let's meet in staff pose. So if you recall, each week after our standing positions, we've come down into a staff pose, Dandasana. Meaning our legs are extended out in front of us. So as always, if sitting on the floor is easier with the blanket in between your bum and the floor, do that. Minimize your distractions. Maybe put blocks under your thighs to minimize any distractions that tight hamstrings will give you. Build your experience and think about the cues. Each week I ask you to line up the shoulders, the hips, the knees, the ankles. Point the toes towards the ceiling so that you're engaging the leg muscles. And that can give you a good foundation. And those strong legs, that energy might transcend up into the glutes, and you can squeeze the glutes a little bit more. Maybe it's traveling up into the belly. Draw the belly in towards your spine. Squeeze the ribs. Lift the heart. Soften the shoulders. Minimize the arch in your low back and the one in your neck too. You don't want to be dropping the head down, or nor do you want to be lifting your chin up. The crown of your head reaching for the sky as you root into the earth with your sits bones, your legs, and as you tap into your center of gravity, keep drawing that belly in and feel how that can strengthen. Squeeze the ribs, lift the heart. Keep checking in on these things over and over and over again. Let's take 3 more breaths. In fact, let's put a little bit of seated mountain into it. Remember we did that earlier? Pull your fingers, line them up with your sits bones as best you can. Notice those mountain-like qualities. Your body is shaped more or less like a mountain, wide base. Head is the peak. Notice. How does pressing into the earth, drawing into the belly, lifting the heart, softening the shoulders, continuing to check in on looking straight ahead, how do these things affect your experience? What are you learning from you? And when you're ready, we can release and kind of let go, shake it out, tap it out. And then let's go ahead and lie back on our backs and be mindful that as you lie back, that you land in a 2-legged table, meaning your knees are bent. So I will always ask that we go from a seated position to a 2-legged table. So when I say lie down, I don't mean extend your legs out in front of you. And I tell you this each week for several reasons. Number one, if your knees are bent while you're lying back, your leg and glute muscles are engaging. And that automatically makes it easier for you to come down on your back. Even if you think it's easier to go straight back with your legs bent, think about that. And when we're down, you could have a head and neck prop, as long as they're neutral, as long as you're looking straight up. And let's build those mountain lines, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles. And then let's bring the arms by the sides and take a few breaths here, fine-tuning your 2-legged table. And next we'll be doing some bridges. So if your feet are right under your knees, you will get more leverage. However, if you have arthritic knees and sore knees, you're welcome to bring the feet further out so that it's less taxing on the knees. Just make sure you're still maintaining shoulders, hips, knees, and feet. And that when you do press into the earth and engage the muscles and start to lift up the hips into the air, your knees don't knot together, nor do they splay out. So your feet and your knees are equidistant apart for every stage of your bridge. As you lift, as you sustain, and as you come back down. And take a couple of breaths when you're back down. And make sure the knees and the feet are still equidistant apart. Maybe change something about the feet. based on that first experience. Engage the muscles, press into the earth, lift up as you're ready. Inhales lift you up. And take good, strong breaths to help sustain. Big inhales to help fuel and energize the bridge. And you could use those exhales to help you connect with the earth. So each time you exhale, think about pressing the feet into the floor, the arms, the upper back, the head. And when you do come down with an exhale, one vertebra at a time. Control the landing. The more you engage the muscles to lower, the less you'll wobble back and forth. And let's do about 2 or 3 more bridges. You decide how many you want to do. Notice how things are progressing. Engage the muscles before you go up so that you're already using them when you start that entrance. And maybe as you build your bridge, you'll build that energy as well. And I've thought of something else that I would like to throw in. I asked you to have your blocks nearby. Hopefully you've got your blocks right by you that you can reach it. But I thought we have enough time to do a couple more bridges with the block. And that block can help inform your cueing and inform the precise alignment principles that are so important in keeping your shapes safe and strong and meaningful. Because if you're just all willy-nilly, your body's not going to strengthen nearly as much. So if you have it, take a block and put the block in between your thighs and make sure the block is parallel with your thighs. And put it in the thighs as much as you can. So in other words, it's not sticking up, it's not wide, it's not cockeyed. And everybody's thighs are different. So do your best. So the block is in between your thighs and you're squeezing the block with your thighs, your knees. And notice how this can keep your feet and knees really precise in their alignment. So you squeeze the block to maintain that shape and squeeze the block as you lift up into your bridge. Squeezing the block ensures that you're using your inner thighs just as much as your outer thighs. And that can help you control your knees from splaying out or from knocking together. So this little bit of information, putting the block in between the thighs, is a really good technique to help you fine-tune and assign some more precision, not perfection, but mindfulness, precision, good attention to detail. And maybe do 2 or 3 bridges with the block. Squeeze it the whole way up while you're in it the whole way down. So you're always pressing into the block evenly. And after you do at least 2, maybe 3 with the block, remove the block, and then do 1 more without the block. And see what it feels like without the block, but pretend like it's still there. And see if that helped inform your bridges. Did it make them stronger? Did it make your alignment principles more precise and more vivid? It might have helped with that wobble, if you wobble as you lift them lower. So I'll give you a few more breaths. And let's do a little bit more resting in our two-legged table, but let's bring our feet out. Let's bring them out a little kind of farther away from the body. So you are minimizing any crowding in your pelvis. And then let's do a little bit of windshield wiper motion. And if you recall, bridges are back bends. And one of my favorite ways to release back bend compression that happens in that low back is by twisting. This is a really safe thing to do after back bends, twisting your body. Notice the releasing that you're probably feeling. Try to end on your opposite side of that effort and come back to the center. Take a couple of breaths. Notice how you feel. And when you're ready, draw your belly in before you hug your knees into your chest for your Apanasana. And like we did in the beginning, start small with some foot movement and then some body movement, rolling and rocking. Feet and knees close, maybe wide, maybe a little of both. Maybe turn that into a happy baby. Extending the legs towards the ceiling. Flexing the feet so the soles of the feet are facing the ceiling. Knees and feet wide, kind of in a stirrup, upside down squat. You can rock, you can roll. Make sure that head and neck are neutral the whole time. You don't want to put strain in any of your poses. And if you do a happy baby, go back to your Apanasana for a couple of breaths. And at some point, we'll all, from our Apanasana, keep that belly drawn in before you bring the legs back down and land with legs bent for a couple of breaths. Then extend out. And maybe put something under your thighs and kind of wriggle in. And some people like to tense up. So you could tense up the entire body. In fact, let's do that. Tense up every single part of your body. Fists, face, arms and legs, glutes, torso muscle, and then release. And do that a couple more times. Tense, tense, tense. Tense up your entire body. And then release and let go. And maybe inhale as you tense, 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 and exhale as you let go. And maybe do that one or two more times, or maybe you've had enough. That can help you distinguish between tenseness as you lie down and truly releasing as you lie down. Release, relax, soften, and allow the body to melt into the floor. Notice your surroundings. Notice your inner surroundings. And these next few moments, you might find yourself kind of going back and forth, assessing what's going on around you, and then to what's going on inside you. Or maybe you want to stay internal the entire time. Both are based on being in the present moment. Your field of consciousness, what's going on around you, might help inform what's going on inside you. And you could flip the coin and the same be true on the other side. What's going on inside of you might be indicative of what's going on around you. And as you're ready, slowly begin to deepen your breath. Take 3 or 4 deeper and deeper breaths. Notice the movement returning just from that deeper breath, expansion and softening. And then start moving fingers and toes, hands and feet. Draw your belly in before you bring your arms and legs into it. Maybe take the arms overhead as you return to your 2-legged table. Couple of breaths in each stage of dismantling your shavasana. And think about that. You're dismantling your reclining pose. That can help you put it into perspective. That you're not just simply lifting up. Coming to the side of the body and coming up from the side of the body is good sound information. It's based on science. It's easier on the body, easier on the low back, and easier on your nervous system. Because that's what we're trying to do in our yoga. We're trying to regulate our nervous system. So bolting up is not good for that nervous system. Slow ascension. And notice the results. Notice how you feel as you build your seated position based on that build-up. Feel the effects of your practice. What's it like to be you now? Hatha Yoga Nushasanam. Now the teachings of yoga. You can carry these teachings throughout the rest of your day. Let's bring our hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra, which symbolizes the unifying of mind, body, and spirit. Namaste. Thank you so much for your practice this morning. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. If you need to bump out, please bump out as you need to.